everybody, I hope you're all well and welcome to my weekly quilty chat show. Video. Sounds like there's a production team. It's only me and my camera and my little room, so you're welcome if you've got a few minutes to spare to have a little look at what I've been doing in my quilting world. It's the 19th of August today. I've just come back from a walk. It feels here in the heart of England like proper autumn. I had to put a jacket on. It's quite breezy, quite chilly. There's supposed to be a supermoon tonight, but it's very cloudy. I'm hoping some of that will pass so that we can go and have a look at that, but I'm not holding out much hope. And I've got a sort of urge to tidy up my room. I don't know what's come over me, really. I'm pretty well organised. I'm not too bad, but I just want to use up all those little tiny bits of fabric that I've been saving for special projects or left over from other projects. Bits of fabric that I didn't want to cut into but I've had for a while. And so I've decided that before I start any of my new projects, and I have started buying fabric for them, but I'm not going to start those until I've made a good headway into the fabric that I already own. And one of the things I did in my bid to tidy up and to sort things out in my room was a Christmas in July quilt. I made the actual flimsy last December, but I ran out of time. I couldn't complete it. And so I put it away in a box and it had stayed on top of a cabinet. I would have probably left that quilt there, the flimsy, until October time. I'm not sure if any of you do Christmas in July. Let me know if you do. So that was the first thing I did. I managed to get it finished on the very, very last day of July. So just squeezed it in. So if you have a look at the top of that cabinet, you will see a globe. And beneath that globe, there is a blue box. Well, I do know what's in here. It hasn't just suddenly appeared. It is my Christmas quilt that I made last December. So I put this away in December and I haven't opened it since. So there's a lavender bag. I always store these little lavender bags wherever I've got batting or fabric. It helps to deter moths. I don't have a problem with moths, but it helps to deter that. So there's the quilt. I'll have a look at that in a minute. So I've got a bag here of little bits of strings and scraps by the look of it, small pieces. And in here, got some completed blocks, all in Christmas fabric. So we've got some, there's a few of those. So a little log cabin. Can't remember doing these. I think I said I was going to write a note what was in this box so I wouldn't forget, and then I forgot to write the note. And I still haven't wrote a note about them squares. All I keep thinking in my head is there's not enough. But that's what I thought when I made that flimsy. And there was enough, but there definitely isn't enough yet for a quilt. So as I make more blocks, then I'll probably write it down. Or probably won't. Hopeless at that sort of thing. Some little pinwheels, 6 of those. Okay, what else? Ooh. Squares within squares. There's quite a few of those. So we've got a pail with red centres, quite a lot of those, and some dark greens. Oh, they've got red centre. Everything's got red centres and a square within a square. Close that. And what else? Some 3-inch squares, a couple of half square triangles, and there'll be 4 3/4 inch squares. Little bits of green fabric and some cream. So I can be working on those at some point. But let's have a look at this. I'm going to do Christmas in July. We just have to remember what it looks like and the sizes. Well, I've measured it and it's 56 inches wide, 61 inches deep, and it is directional. Let me show you. So in some of these little friendship stars, there are Christmas trees, and in these variable stars, there are Christmas trees. So I did call this No Buy July for myself, but I did have to buy some backing for this. Again, I've only bought a couple of yards, so it's not quite wide enough. So I am going to piece the piece in the middle. So I'll take one of those other Christmas blocks and put a label on and then piece that into the back. It's navy blue, the material that I've bought, so I hope to do that. But I might also be tempted, definitely, into the garden. Look, there are some things I'd like to do, and we haven't had any summer this year. That's the first dahlia out. Hydrangeas are lovely, and there are some jubs that I need to do while we have fair weather, and I'll get back to my quilting. And I did manage to spend some time in the garden and tidied it all up, and it looked lovely. Can't believe it, but those dahlias now are almost over. It's just gearing up ready for autumn. There'll be all the sedums will be out, and that'll be it. That'll be autumn. Another year done. And it was really, really hot when I quilted that Christmas in July quilt, but I really wanted to keep myself busy. I was waiting for an important phone call, one that never came. Never mind, we've moved on. But yeah, I did it, completed it. Felt great about that. So as you can see, I finished quilting the centre part of the quilt in a crosshatch. It's a lovely deep navy blue backing, 100% cotton. I did have one block left over, so I put my label on that. And when I say I sewed my label onto the one block that was left over, there are more blocks left over, but it was only one block in that colourway, so I decided to put that in the back of the quilt, and I think that looks nice. And so all that's left now is for the binding, so I'll do that and I'll show you what Christmas in July looks like. And that's the back of the quilt, a plain navy blue, and that's it. It's all quilted, it's finished, so I'm going to take some photographs and put this one in my shop. Okay, Christmas in July is finished, and now I'm moving on to the next project. And so after the Christmas quilt, the very first project I wanted to complete was the Harlequin quilt. And that's the Harlequin quilt finished. I just quilted it in squares following the seams, and I decided to use a black thread on the front and the back because I thought it might add a little bit of edginess for a teenager. So that's the back, and that's the lovely cheery front. So I'm hoping that might brighten someone's day. So I'll get this washed and dried, and that will be another one to take over to Project Liners. And if you're interested, I have put links in the comments below about how I constructed both of those quilts. There are a video for each of those. I was just about to start my big next quilt, and I've had a phone call and I've got to go out in a little while. So I think what I will do is take some of this fabric and make up some squares. So I had designed another Stash Buster quilt that's sort of based around a trip around the world, and I was just about to start that when I knew I couldn't complete that or get into it. And so sometimes though, if you want to sew and you're ready, you still need to do a little bit of sewing, and so this is what I did. add a few more blocks to go into my little Christmas collection box. And my next project was this. This is what I was planning, my big project, to get through all of those lovely pieces of fabric. It's slightly different from the original design. Originally, I'd made it as a rainbow quilt, but I didn't have the rainbow colours in my stash, and so I've altered it slightly. And the reason I made design changes was because when I put the colours up on my design wall, it didn't quite work together in the way that I had planned it on paper, and so I moved things around. And there is also now an on-point square border that fits around the edge. So what I'll do is I'll put another design together, the same as this, and I'll pop that on my community page. So if you want that, that'll be available when I make this quilt. Talking of design walls, it has been really useful for this project. For those that don't know, I made this simple design wall at the start of July, and it's been great. I've loved it. However, earlier I said in the video that I haven't ever had any problem with moths. Well, as a quilter, that's one of our worst nightmares, isn't it? I noticed I started having a few moths around the place. Well, it's 80% cotton and 20% polyester, and I've never had any problem with moths before, and they were flutting around. Now, I'm not sure if that's because the house was closed up for a few weeks, or whether, you know, the weather, the conditions. And so I was desperate, and I had some of this left over. It's called Relic. It's Spanish. It's a mozzie spray. So I sprayed the whole of the thing lightly with that. It did leave a little bit of a residue, but that's fine. It doesn't come off on the fabric. You can feel it, and there's a little citrusy smell to it, but there's no moths now. So I'm hoping I'm not going to have any more moth problems. I will put some extra lavender around the room when I go and harvest that from the garden. And so in my next video, it will be all about this. This is a quadrant of the trip around the world. It's going to be quite a decent sized quilt. It's used up some really lovely fabrics. I think it'll come together really nicely. And I'll put the new design on my community page, as I've said, and that's what I'll be sharing with you next week. So if you're interested in that, please join me. And if you're still with me, thank you very much for your company. Please take really good care of yourselves. I know some of you are a little bit under the weather, and try and keep positive. That's what they say, don't they? Positive mindset. And I'll see you next time. Bye.